If you are stuck on how to elevate your career and your everyday work leaves you feeling exhausted and disappointed, this podcast is for you. You're listening to Work Liberated, the intersection between personal transformation and career empowerment. Listen to industry experts who share valuable advice on dispelling burnout, anxiety, and stress in the workplace through life-changing and innovative strategies. Reconnect with your highest purpose, realign with your core values, and liberate your human spirit by unleashing your full potential in everything you do. Here's your host, Margaret Graziano.
Welcome to Work Liberated. Welcome, Andrea Mackenzie. Andrea Mackenzie is a conservationist, and for the last 12 years, she's been the general manager of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority in California's San Francisco Bay Area. She and her team have been working to preserve open space, wildlife habitat, and working lands. For over 35 years, Andrea has worked to create innovative and visionary conservation plans, policies, and public finance measures to support healthy ecosystems, communities, and economies. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Margaret. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit about what all that means. What do you do if you were speaking to somebody who had no idea about conservation or open space? What would you say if you were at a party? What do you do?
I'd say, hi, I'm Andrea Mackenzie. Nice to meet you. I work for this really cool government agency located here in the Silicon Valley called the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. And because of you support us, we protect the natural world and the agricultural lands around our cities for future generations.
Awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about the properties that the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority manages, stewards for those people, whether they're visiting the Bay Area or they live in the Bay Area?
Sure. Well, our public agency has a territory of about 1,000 square miles of Santa Clara County. We're a public agency that buys land, both wildlife habitat, open space, farmland that's at risk of being developed. And we do that for the benefit of the public. And we also operate a system of open space preserves, basically parks for people and nature. And this system is open to the public 365 days a year, free of charge. We have a dedicated team of open space technicians that manages those lands to make sure nature is sustained and people have an excellent visitor experience when they go to interact with nature.
Great. And there's so many things I want to ask about why it's important to conserve open space, but I'll wait on that. My next question is, how did you get into this business? Why did you decide to get into this business?
Sometimes you don't decide to get into a business. Something calls you to the work. And I would say since I was a child, I've had a deep love and affinity for nature. I've had very strong protective instincts about protecting the natural world and wildlife and wild spaces. And so I went to college in environmental studies and urban planning, and some people would see those as kind of an odd combination, but I grew increasingly interested over the years in how nature interacts with people and urban spaces, and how important nature is to the sustainability of our urban areas and our cities. And so, when I was a little kid, I grew up watching Wild Kingdom on TV. I wanted to be a National Park Service ranger when I grew up, and kind of that was the direction that I went. And it turned out there are some pretty cool jobs out there that you don't know about when you're in school or you're growing up. And one is working for government agencies that protect nature and provide places for people to interact with nature, whether they're national parks or state parks. Or here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we have a wonderful system of open space preserves and open space districts that operate those for the benefit of the public.
Cool. So the name of this podcast is Work Liberated. How does people spending time in open space, in nature, how does that benefit a human being, especially in experiencing this the connection with their highest self, with their spiritual self? How, I mean, you everywhere you read, Mary Oliver and many other authors, get out to nature, get out to nature. Why does it work? Why is nature a conduit for us to be operating at our highest and best self? Why do you think it is?
Well, in my generation, when we were growing up, we would just go play in what we called the woods. Your parents said, be home by dinner time, and you'd go have an experience in nature, and intuitively, it made you the person that you are today. It's a different world now. We're a much more crowded world, and the amount of green space that we have, especially close to where we live, is shrinking. We're a fast-paced world. We're a technology-driven world. And even as we do so much around the world that is shrinking the amount of habitat, we need it more than ever. We need interaction with green space. We need it for our mental health, our physical well-being. And we also need it as a life support system. People don't often think about that. You know, nature and the natural world is our life support system. We depend upon nature to give us clean air, clean water, to balance growth, to provide places for biodiversity to thrive, to support our well-being for future generations. So it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. And so we need that more than ever, especially close to where we live. And that's the role of agencies like mine, is to provide sustainable green spaces, wild spaces for nature and people to thrive. And there's plenty of studies out there that show that as children interact with nature, it sparks their intelligence. They're more empathetic creatures. They're more willing to work with people, and they understand their place in the world. And so those are just some of the reasons why nature near us is so important.
Yeah. Yesterday or last week, I was doing a photo shoot, and I took the dog out and the photographer, and there was a whole school that was teaching the kids in the park. And I thought that was really interesting. We used to do that when I was little. We used to go out and go for walks and go for hikes, but my kids, they never did that with my kids. It was never going outside. And so I hope that things are going back to getting the kids outside. So you knew that this was your calling at some level as a little girl. Can you tell us a little bit about what the open space does, the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority does every day? Like, you happen to be a customer of mine, so I know that one of your people goes out and actually makes sure that those trails are equipped for people to go on, and then you have somebody to train. But all in all, why did you pick it, and why have you stayed 12 years? And what do they do? Which is probably one of the reasons you picked it.
Well, I talked a minute ago about sometimes you don't decide what you're going to be in life. There's a calling. And my calling has really been to inspire and motivate people to protect the natural world. And the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority is a place where that calling can come to fruition in one of the most dense population, areas of dense population, the center of innovation, very diverse cities. It's a place where nature really matters to many generations, to many nationalities and diverse communities. And so what we are doing on a day-to-day basis is we are acquiring land that's for sale on the market that could be turned into offices or warehouses, sometimes big mansions out on green space. And we're not typically doing that kind of work right in the cities, but kind of outside of cities. So we're buying land to protect it. We're evaluating what the resources, the natural resources and the wildlife and the the conditions of the creeks and streams are that are on these lands. We're getting kind of taking the pulse of what's happening on the land. We're educating the residents that this place belongs to them and why they should get out there and enjoy it and connect their families to nature. We're often informing local land use policy or even state policy in California to better inform planning and investments and decision making, that it includes nature in the center of those discussions, and includes nature not just for nature's sake, but also for people. So we're monitoring legislation, and we're looking at investments in nature and working with lots of partners to make sure that there's funding available to protect wild spaces, to provide environmental education to the public, to restore these lands, to manage them for the benefit of nature and people. So we have people all the way from real estate professionals to IT professionals, HR, administration. We have biologists, we have trail builders. We're a full service agency for nature to benefit people.
And you started there 12 years ago. And given that a big piece of this podcast is about how to create the kind of culture where people can thrive, how have you stayed true to the essence of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority and scaled it? Because there was 5 or 6 people when you started, and there's 50-ish people now. So it's a 2-part question. How have you stayed true to the essence of who the agency is and scaled it? And so that's the first question. And I'll just keep asking more about that.
Well, for a lot of people out there, young professionals and so on, working at a place for 12 years seems like an eternity. But when you think about the natural world and geologic time and so on, 12 years is the blink of an eye in terms of protecting nature and its unique resources, understanding how it benefits people in a place like the Silicon Valley. Working to restore landscapes can take decades, if not more. And so being true to that mission is first building a culture at a place like the Open Space Authority that draws other people that have a passion for nature and a passion for connecting people to nature, and building a supportive environment, cultural environment where people see themselves and they can contribute their unique talents and passions to the work of the Open Space Authority. It's about putting together a compelling long-term vision to engage the public and show them how they fit with that these lands belong to the public, and how they can help us advance that vision to protect and connect natural lands across the Silicon Valley region. And as the world around us changes, it's not a linear step-by-step approach to building a strong, high-performance government agency with a very supportive work culture. It takes a lot of time and effort, and it takes constant work. And so every day there's a new challenge, and that's what keeps me inspired to work at the Open Space Authority.
And how do you inspire those that work for you? Like, we are living in a time right now where climate and nature and weather is completely and totally unpredictable. And then they'll look at, okay, well, this is what these folks do. They're working to conserve this. How do you keep people as a leader inspired, even when evidence is showing we might need to be a little nervous and scared rather than inspired? How do you shift that for people that work with you?
Well, it's not about protecting people and your employees from what's happening all around us. It's about engaging them and giving them a seat at the table. I think foundationally, you need to build a culture of hope and courage. And one of my favorite quotes is from a professor of environmental studies at Oberlin College, who said, hope is a verb with its sleeves rolled up. And that's what it's all about, right? You have hope for the planet, but it's going to take work, and it's going to take collaboration, and it's going to take courage and risk taking. It's no longer about business as usual, top down management, short-term thinking. Those are becoming relics. And now it's about adaptation, judicious risk taking, collaboration, taking action, and working with your team to make sure that they're part of forming the solutions. And one of the first things I do to inspire my people is to be visible. And one of the things I think it's important for leaders to be visible about is your passion. I grew up with a scientific father who told me that I should let my idealism be shown off in my free time, and I needed to keep my head down and do the hard work. And I actually think there's a place for both. You need to roll up your sleeves and get to work, but you also need to let your passion be visible. I talked about developing a supportive environment and culture for the staff, and let every employee know that they matter. So even though we are a mission-driven organization focused on nature, to let everyone know, no matter if they're in IT, finance, administration, HR, that what they do matters to fulfill the mission of protecting the natural world. And then also just to give staff opportunities to develop their leadership skills. And sometimes that might mean failing, but it also means learning. And I think increasingly, and I'm learning this every day, as recently as yesterday, that we need to find ways to let our employees' passions and unique skills and talents find a place in the organization, not just based on a static job description, but what they can bring to the organization. So those are some of the ways of inspiring my people.
Yeah. So Andrea, what you're really talking about is in the 4 components of an emergent culture. People need self-actualization. And that's what you're talking about when you're saying connect their passions to the purpose of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority. And then that what they do matters. People need significance. They need to know that they're contributing. And you also mentioned collaboration and bringing their ideas to the table, which is this whole affiliative piece, where it's not coming down from the mount high, this is what we're doing, but asking, what do you guys think we should do? So how are you, and how have you changed as a leader? Because, you know, your dad's perspective of keep your head down and get to work was a perspective of the command and control way to run a company. And you and I have grown up and actually seen command and control move to affiliate and collaborate. So how have you had to change? And I'm sure all the listeners would be curious about that. Like, how did you have to literally change the way you used to do it and the way you need to do it now in that from command and control, or people need to be told what to do to affiliate and collaborate?
Well, I've never really been a command and control person. And I think maybe this is not a fair thing to say, but I think a lot more women have a leadership style that's collaborative and power sharing. But I also have been a person who long thought, if I don't do it, who will? I've got to be the one to rescue a situation or come up with a great idea or find the money or whatever. And I think I've learned over the years that while I can have that strong sense of responsibility, it's much more effective and powerful if I share it. And, you know, the old African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I have learned over the years in working with my team and my staff through a lot of ways that the more we build teams, the more we give away the work, the more we get curious about what a different idea or approach might be, the stronger we are and the more resilient we are in the long run. And I'm not always going to be in this position. And so as much as I love this agency and the work we do, we need a strong team for the future. We need the next generation to be ready to step into these roles. And so it's in my own self-interest and the interest of the agency to create pathways and openings to build that kind of intergenerational leadership and power.
Yeah. Otherwise, you won't have a agency when you do decide it's time to move on or retire or rewire. So, earlier you said one of the elements of a constructive, healthy, intentional culture is producing results together. And earlier you said sometimes it's years and years and years and years till we see the results. How do you keep your folks connected to the result of your work? How do you keep them connected to how it actually makes a difference today and tomorrow?
That's a very insightful question, and not always an easy one to answer. There are a lot of folks that work in the conservation and the land use planning field that say it's hard to see the results of your work. It takes years and years. So one of the ways that you approach that is with early wins. Showing your staff and involving them in incremental wins along the way. And also working in partnership with other agencies and organizations within your community. Because sometimes it's amazing to see what you may see as a relatively small contribution you're making or investment you're making in a community or community organization who's your partner can make all the difference in the world to that other organization. So for instance, we operate an urban open space grant program where we use public funds and we make contributions to all kinds of community-based organizations to get people closer to nature, to stand up environmental education programs, or to do community gardens and urban farms, trails, all kinds of things that can connect people to nature. We might give out a $25,000 contribution to a small community-based organization, which is changes things night and day for them. And to see the impact that our work can have, not just on the big wide open spaces, but inside communities, and especially low-income communities that don't have access often to green space. So those partnerships that you have, those relationships that you build with community can start to show you and give you momentum to what you're doing over time. And then I think it's just also important as you make those incremental progress and wins to celebrate them. Because as many people say, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you have to pace yourself. But that doesn't mean there can't be satisfying wins along the way.
And so the final piece, and it's never really final, but in having a healthy, intentional culture is to have humanistic leadership, where you really understand the human part of work, people's humanity. And even without ever knowing that, ever since I've known you, I would call you a humanistic leader. Can you share with the listeners or the watchers, what are some of the things that you have either learned to do or that you do to connect to people? And I know, Andrea, for you, it's just natural, but there are other people who are those heads down leaders that it's not natural for them. So what are some of the ways that you connect with employees, partners, staff, leaders, so that they know you care?
Well, it's ironic in a way when your career choice or calling is about the natural world, but you realize along the way that it's all about human relationships. That's what gets it done. Mm. One of my sheroes is Jane Goodall, and obviously she pioneered the understanding of chimpanzees and how closely related they are to humans. But her big breakthrough was understanding the importance of villages and townships around these areas of habitat. And if people were doing well, then wildlife would be doing well. And so there's been a lot of learning in my career about the people aspect. And I think, leaders talk about this a lot, the practice of manage by walking around. And it's more difficult these days in the post kind of pandemic world, but interacting with people as people, getting curious about their lives, their highs and their lows, I think is important. I mentioned earlier being vulnerable as a leader, showing my passions, what gets me excited, not being afraid to laugh at myself, giving away important assignments or giving away power to others. And that's not the same as dereliction of duty, and understanding the difference between those, celebrating the wins, getting out in nature, getting out on the open spaces we've protected, and bringing everybody together. There's nothing more joyful than when our entire group of 50 gets out on lands, and you've got the biologists with the trail builders, with the HR, with the IT, everybody seeing their unique role in the organization working together.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So how do we open the door with these massive organizations in Silicon Valley that are so tech focused and have them understand that if they want more from people, they actually have to, or might want to consider using the resources all around them, meaning nature, to connect their people to their purpose and to the land. I mean, most people live here because it's one of the most biodiverse areas in the country, and the weather's great and it's beautiful. But if we're working all day and we're in front of the computer, we don't get to see that. So how do we, and what have you experienced? Am I just thinking they don't understand it, or do they all understand it and they're all donating money and they're all going on hikes, and they're, instead of taking people to Dave and Buster's, they're taking people to the Coyote Valley? What's the awareness of the need in organizations right now?
Well, if you've been paying attention at all, you've heard scientists say we've got 10 years to make a sizable difference in responding to climate change. You heard me say a minute ago that in a short period in history, the blink of an eye, really, when you think about the planet's history, we have put 1 million species at risk of extinction. We've all been experiencing lately, and are kind of at the subject to the whims of nature. Mother Nature is sending some pretty strong signals right now about the impact we're having in terms of the storms. And so one year we have drought, and the next year we have floods, and we have wildfires. And in places all around the country and the world, and even in our own communities, sometimes the hardest hit are the communities that can at least afford and are the least resilient to that. So it's really important. And even in a place like Silicon Valley, nature matters. I mentioned nature is our life support system upon which we all depend. And nature is, I want to say this really to those who work and depend on the Silicon Valley for their employment, that nature is one of the best, if not the highest return on investments that we can make. When we invest in nature and steward nature and take care of her, she looks out for us in terms of clean air and clean water, controlling floods, providing food, generating areas for everyone, no matter their race, age, zip code, to go to and experience mental and physical health. We need nature more than we know. And so one of the things in our 30th year here at the Open Space Authority here in 2023, that we're really calling upon Silicon Valley to invest in the protection and the restoration of the natural world right here in Silicon Valley, because the implications for that and the benefits of that are incalculable. And so our tech hub here in Silicon Valley is pretty impressive. We have, the spaceship building for Apple, and we have the Google investment in downtown San Jose, and just, a lot of really amazing things happening. But sometimes they're happening within kind of an internal bubble of that company. And I think it's really important. We've heard the term before, corporate responsibility, but it's so much bigger than that now. It's a moral and spiritual responsibility to the planet to do something, to invest in the habitability and the sustainability of our planet right in your own backyard. And, there's no better role model for that than Yvon Chouinard and what he has done with Patagonia and his creation of the 1% for the Planet program, which allows companies to give back to nature and to the natural world to better the environment for nature and people. So we're all in this together. And even for people like me that have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility, no one person can do it all. No one company can do it all. No one community or government. We've all got to work together, and we've got to do it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have two big things coming up. You have an anniversary event this year. Can you tell us about that?
We have a couple big events coming up. We, in the last 3 years, working with our partners at the Peninsula Open Space Trust and the City of San Jose, we've acquired over 1,500 acres of valley floor in the Coyote Valley, one of the most important remaining undeveloped landscapes in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we're going to be celebrating that with a lot of friends of the Open Space Authority and elected officials that we would like to understand more about the importance of nature. We're going to be doing that celebration in May at the Tilton Ranch, which is now a 2,000 acre protected ranch that will be opening to the public in the coming years as an amazing open space. And then come October, we're opening our newest open space preserve. And it's the first one that has a Native American name. So it's called Mayano Yakma Coyote Ridge Open Space Preserve. It's the Coyote Ridge overlooking Highway 101, right where 85 and 101 come together. It's one of the most sensitive habitats remaining in Santa Clara County. It's home for the bay checker spot butterfly and serpentine grasslands, and some of the most outstanding views available in Santa Clara County. We'll be opening that to the public in the early part of October. So we're really excited about that. So we're going to use this platform of our 30th anniversary to get more people involved, to raise the profile of the importance of nature and how much it means to the people of San Jose and Santa Clara County. And hopefully just do a lot of great work that keeps us at the forefront of protecting nature here in our region.
Great. And for those people that are watching or listening that believe they have a calling to conserve nature, to care for the planet, what would you suggest? Is there a job board that is totally for this industry, or is there an association that they can sign up for, or where do they begin their quest? I mean, because as there are people wanting to leave corporate America in droves because they want more purpose and more meaningful work, and they want to do something that matters. And yes, you've got the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, but also who Andrea is she serves on boards for the entire region and multiple different organizations. So how do they go about getting into this industry?
Thanks, Margaret. Well, depending on where you are and on your path, if you're still in college, talk to your professors in the environmental studies or the environmental planning or urban planning departments. They are connected to these webs of nonprofit organizations and government agencies. You can send me an email at amackenzie@openspaceauthority.org. I'm happy to direct you to nonprofit organizations or other government agencies that are looking for people. There are some tremendously passionate and dedicated conservation, environmental, social justice organizations working together in the Bay Area. I happen to sit on the board of an outstanding organization called Together Bay Area, which is a coalition of all the open space, conservation, restoration organizations and agencies across the 9 counties of the Bay Area. You can find Together Bay Area on the internet, and they have a job board for the entire Bay Area.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and you can come to our conference if you're interested on May. Together Bay Area is putting on, and just learn more about the work and how you can get involved.
Great. And where is that in May?
Together Bay Area will be holding its spring summit, May 9th, I believe it is, at the Rosie the Riveter National Park in Richmond.
Oh, great.
We're going to be having some great speakers there, and it's just a gathering of the very diverse clan of people dedicated to nature here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, and keep up the good work. And thank you for sharing your passion and the need for everybody to have an interest in what's happening in the world of nature. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Work Liberated. May these nuggets of wisdom from the most inspiring human potential catalysts today guide you in becoming someone who can work exceptionally with others and accomplish goals inside the collective. Continue your journey as a fulfilled and self-actualized person by listening to more episodes at www.workliberated.org. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a positive rating, and share with your friends. That's all for now. See you on the next one.